Let's get inspired. The world is waiting. Hi, welcome everybody. Welcome to Travel Collective 2022. April and I have some great things in store for you this year. We've changed some of our content, so you're going to see a lot more of her and I. Today we're talking to Mariel, who just recently went on a trip to Florence, Italy. We can't wait to hear what she has to say. And we're going to give you some tips for dining al fresco, one of April and I's favorite things to do when we travel. So welcome, and here we go. I'm good.
Hey, Cindy, how's it going?
Hey, April, Happy New Year. It's so good to be back for 2022.
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's the start of a new year, new episodes. I'm super excited.
Me too. We've got so many new things planned for this year. So I can't wait to have more and more content and share more and more people that we meet and, our continued love of travel. That's what we're doing.
Yeah, exactly. And I wish we could be outside today. We talked about being outside.
Yes.
But I don't know about you. It's gotten super cold. It's like 30 and sunny. I mean, it's super sunny, and I could go sit in a sunny patch, but then you wouldn't see my face. I'd be like one big
washed out. Yes. Yeah, it is cold here too. I know we talked this morning or a couple of days ago about getting outside this morning because we were talking dining al fresco, and we thought what better place to be, right?
Yeah.
But no way that's happening. I mean, we could, but I would be bundled up and kind of look ridiculous. Although I will say that I have dined al fresco when it is cold and blistery, and I'll talk a little bit about that and why I do that too, because it doesn't have to be a beautiful hot day to enjoy being outside and eating and people watching, which is my favorite part of that.
I know. Yeah, exactly. When you said that just now, I just reminded of my first time to Paris was in February, and it was super cold, but it was still great to just be bundled up, sitting at a cafe table, or sitting in a park on a bench and just have hot coffee and a croissant, some bread, pastry, and just watching the scene and just being, if you're bundled up and prepared, it's wonderful.
Yeah. And I think we were, this dining outside or al fresco dining. I mean, there's dining in a restaurant, but I think we're talking about, right. That's one thing, but we're really talking about like make your own DIY, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Fresco. And it evolved for me kind of out of both budget and convenience, because when you travel, especially if you travel for very long, you get really tired of restaurant atmosphere experiences, right?
Exactly.
You just need a meal, and you don't want a big meal. You need like a piece of toast and a cup of coffee, or you need, just like a little something. Or sometimes at the end of the day, even at home here, I don't eat a whole meal for dinner. I'll just have, a little bite to eat, it's because I'm not super hungry. And when you're traveling, you feel odd going to a restaurant and saying, can I just have a bowl of cereal or a slice of toast and coffee?
Right.
and then it's so expensive too, right? So budget reasons were one of the reasons, and then also just sort of the convenience of being able to kind of eat what I wanted when I wanted. So I don't know about you, but when I first started traveling, it didn't really occur to me to plan ahead for dining on my own. So you would do what most people do, right? Go to a convenience store, grab a thing, and then you go here and you do something else. And then you find that you can't really do it because I don't have salt and pepper, or I don't have cream for my coffee, or where's my spoon, or
exactly.
I don't have a knife to cut this, right? So after a few years of like mishaps around that, I know you and I both have curated kind of a collection of things.
Exactly. It's worth planning ahead. And I so agree. I mean, dining outside kind of started with me as well, with budget. It's a much easier, and just time for me. A lot of times it's like, I want to maximize my time in a location. And sometimes when you're traveling, especially in places like Europe, where it is an experience, they're expecting to give you an experience. And so to them, it's rude if you're like, hey, where's the check? Because you literally have to ask for the check in places like Europe. They're not accustomed to like bringing
20-minute lunches.
Right. And you whizzing out the door. So part of it's that, or even in the United States, it's like, oh my gosh, it's a beautiful day and I want to enjoy as much time as I can outside. And sometimes, committing to a restaurant just feels like I'm going to be inside committed to a much longer block of time.
Right.
So, and we all have to eat. So you got to have some snacks.
And you don't want to eat like granola bars and almonds for the, the duration of your trip. I mean, that works fine if it's a 3 or 4 day journey, but if you're gone for 6 or 8 days, your in between meals have to be a little more substantial.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And there's lots of places. We'll talk a minute about kind of the places. Definitely parks is where I've spent a lot of times. A lot of times when I'm traveling and walking throughout the day, I will wander about and just go, ooh, there, I'm going to come back here tomorrow for breakfast or lunch. Like I see places when I'm out and about, and I kind of mentally note, like, this is a good place to try to have lunch or something along those lines. That helps a lot. And sometimes I don't even have a plan. Sometimes I'll just pack it and then just, I'm going to find a place to sit. Now, even if I have to sit with it on my lap and do it. I just decide that I want to make the most of the day, but parks are good options. Lots of cities have big open spaces. So they'll have not necessarily parks, but, sitting areas in different places where you can sometimes grab a place to sit, or sitting on the ground is another option. And even eating, I know you do road trips, April, eating in the car. Like I've just pulled my seat back and put my food out of my lap or open the hatch back, kind of sit back there and enjoy it. If you're in a car, you can always my mom and I actually brought camp chairs and a little folding table. Everybody thought I was crazy when we drove across country to New Mexico, because we just said we're not eating in a restaurant, we're gonna sit. We packed a lunch. And we I have pictures. I have to find those so I can show on here.
Yeah, you will.
Because we were going over the mountains and it was snowing, and there was evergreen trees, and we just found this pull-off spot on the road. I mean, we drove for a while and we were like, oh, we aren't going to find a picturesque place to stop because we're so hungry, and it was like, we have to eat now.
Yeah, exactly.
We kind of came up a hill and I was like, oh my God, there's this beautiful pull-off. So we just pulled off, and we were nestled in these evergreen trees. We opened up our camp chairs. I had a little folding, like a TV table, tray table, if you know what I'm talking about. I put that in the back of the car. Again, people think I'm nuts. But this was our plan. This is how we had planned to have lunch. And we sat out there and chit-chatted and, enjoyed our little bread and cheese. And we had little sandwiches and some warm soup. And it was lovely. And it was much better, honestly, than what we would have found in a restaurant. It wasn't about the food. It was about we laughed and we, enjoyed sitting it up, and we watched cars go by. People thought we were silly. I'm sure.
No. It forces you to slow down a little and actually sometimes spend more time just, in a space, listening to the trees or listening to the water or wherever you choose to be. And sometimes it's fun. It's like, I do that a lot too on the road trips I lead or take. It's like, if there's a pull-up, it's funny to sometimes you're eating your sandwich and enjoying your food, and sometimes you just laugh with who you're with, because it's like literally cars come in, they hop out. It's like this routine, and you just kind of giggle because it's like they snap their picture. They don't even stop and hear the trees or listen to the birds or observe the leaves kind of falling or wherever it is. And it's like, and then they're off and gone.
And they miss it. And, even when I'm in a city, as I was talking about, kind of looking for the spot, or like that moment when my mom and I were looking for a place to pull off to have our lunch that day, it forces us to kind of lower and look right in the space I'm in, right? So sometimes when you're traveling, you're so focused on where you're headed,
right?
And you're trying to get to that destination. So you don't see all the things along the way, if you follow me. And so I think when I'm in this mode of I've got to find a place and we're looking for the most picturesque pull off, it forced us, oh, this is kind of cool. Maybe, and then it was sort of like, aha, there it is.
Yeah.
But that we wouldn't have seen even that little space had we not been hunting for that. So there's so many beautiful things.
And even in urban locations, like cities, like you said, it's like you wouldn't notice a maybe a little bench tucked in a corner or off to the side, or even sometimes, it's nice to find, buildings that have steps. Maybe there's a little area that you're out of the way of the, main traffic, and, sit
Yeah.
off to the side, or like you said, little patches of grass, little pocket parks, and
Yeah. Little
yeah.
places and meeting locals too. As I'm thinking about it, that's how I learned about Viking bowling.
Oh, really?
We were in Paris, again, my mom and I, eating lunch um, in a little park, and a bunch of locals were out. It was a Saturday, or Sunday was weekend, so all the locals were out with their kids, and we were just in awe of the people watching, right? People with
Right.
babies and dogs, and there were some young people in their 20s alongside us, and they were playing this game. And my mom and I were they were laughing, there were probably like 8 of them, somewhere between 18 and 25. And we just could not figure out what it was. It's a game that's played, and I actually bought one when I got home, because I like, this is an awesome game. It's played with little like wooden pins, sort of like bowling
Oh,
pins, but they
yeah.
each have a number. And you throw a stick at it, not a ball,
Oh,
to
not a
knock them over.
ball.
And anyway, there's a whole system to it. I learned how to play. It's a fun game to play, but I didn't know what it was. And so finally my mom and I just kind of got up and walked up and asked one of them, like, what's the name of it? It was a Swedish group of college
Oh my
kids, and they
gosh.
told us the name of it, which I can't remember what it was in Swedish, but I just went home and directly looked it up, and I was like, oh, this is what they call Viking bowling. I can do that. It's Norwegian. And
Right.
I actually, funny enough, then I saw the game at Target.
Oh, did you? Oh my gosh.
And I would never have known what it was, so anyway, this, like, eating outside, people
Well, yeah.
watching, I think we've probably sold people on how important it is.
Yeah, I think so. It is so many benefits to just taking the moment and enjoying some of your meals. But the other key is planning ahead a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And when we were talking, getting ready to talk to Mariel from Florence, we saw a notice, and that was what kind of spurred this conversation, was that the Associated Press in 2019 said that on the Spanish Steps in Rome, you're going to be fined 400 euros, $450 or so, if you stop and eat or drink on the steps. So it was like, ooh, that's interesting. And then we kind
Yeah.
of started talking about that. So we know that, I mean, the reason they're doing it is because the steps are just overcrowded with humans. There's too many people. You can't even get that picture anymore because it was
Right.
flooded with people. Plus it gets, I'm sure there's litter and other challenges that they have. So, just our overrun of tourists in certain areas has created an opportunity for people to create laws and rules around that so we can protect them. So we do want to just make note that you should pay attention to where you can watch locals. That's your best
Right.
bet. If locals are having coffee or opening up their sandwich in this location, you're probably okay to do it. So pay attention to that, or especially in high tourist areas, I would venture away from those, just because you're going to be in people's way trying to take pictures and so forth, kind of set off to the side or move down
Right.
the way a
Right.
bit away from that, if you're going to stop and have, an afternoon lunch, so you can really enjoy yourself, right?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And even in cities in the United States, I imagine there's places where they could, or maybe have thought about finding you or ask you to move along. So yeah, just be mindful of that, and
Right.
look for an area kind of off to the side where you're not right in the way of people wanting to get in
Yes.
the museum or whatever it is.
So we wanted to share, this is kind of our show and tell piece, and we wanted to share some of the items that we bring along. Do you want to start, or you want me to start? I have
Um,
3 or 4 things.
you have some great things. I have just a couple things. I think we both now pack some sort of silverware. I mean, these are really flat plastic
Yes.
silverware. They're easy to wash. They don't take up any room. I literally put these in the back of my backpack because I
Mhm.
feel like when I'm
Yes.
flying too, sometimes you literally hardly have any time, maybe in an airport, and you're grabbing something, and your goal is to not miss your plane. This way you have something in your bag to dig out.
Right. I travel with silver too, and plastic, because it's lightweight. I used to have one that was like a dual, like, spoon and a fork on the other side. I
Yep.
found that it wasn't,
There's
that
sometimes
that
if you
was
go, yeah, if you go
too
to like
hard.
some of the trade shows, they like this one that was a giveaway somewhere, and it all folds together, which is kind of nice. And then
Yep.
it takes up, again, minimal space. And I always
Yeah.
have an extra set, so if I'm with a travel companion,
Oh, that's a great tip.
right, they have
Yeah.
something too. Because this last time, same thing. It's like was hard to find plastic silverware. A lot of places aren't spending the money to put it out anymore. And
Right. Right. Well,
so,
and sometimes, well, I could, to be eco-friendly, right? You don't need to bring it if you have your own, right?
right.
Like there's no reason to, I don't need an extra set that I'm going to toss because I just carry my
Yeah.
own fork along with me.
Yeah.
But you never know. And it works well for leftovers too, because oftentimes if you take away something from a restaurant, they don't give you silverware along with it because they assume you're taking it home.
Right.
So if I go to a restaurant and they're like, oh, you want to take this home? Great. Then I get it back to the hotel or the lodge or wherever I'm staying and like, I don't have any way to
Right.
eat it.
Exactly. Then you have nothing to eat it with.
Yeah, so it's really helpful for all of those reasons just to tuck in silverware in your bag. Yeah, I do the same thing. The other thing that I've done, just speaking of silverware, and I don't have it here, is I do carry a little cheese knife. Now I found a little cheese knife that's serrated on one end. And the reason I carry that is because a cheese knife is usually, sorry, words aren't working for me. It's usually got a rounded tip, so it doesn't look dangerous. It's usually really small, so I can carry it most places. Like people aren't going to get upset. I've even carried it on the plane because it doesn't look like a knife, but it's a little bit of serrated to cut cheese, so it will help me like cut through bread. It's tiny.
That's smart.
So because I've tried carrying, it's hard to find a knife. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
sometimes you want to cut fruit or something like in this little cheese knife, because it's serrated, right? It's like a little saw.
Right.
I can cut through most things, and it just helps quite a bit with little things like that. So that's what I found works, is a little tiny serrated cheese knife, and because it doesn't look dangerous and it's small,
right.
And you can bundle that up. But what I also, and I know this is my big thing, is my little tin that I bought, and I bought this 2015, maybe earlier than that, because I think I took this to Belize too with me. When I was planning that trip, I knew I wanted to eat along the way and kind of purchase food and also have food that I bring home from restaurants. And I wanted to be able to carry it from one place to the other. And my concern originally was, because everybody said just grab a piece of Tupperware, Rubbermaid, something. And I thought, yeah, that would be great, except for I'm going to have to sit on my bag to close it.
Right, exactly.
Because I will have it full of stuff. And if I put something like that in there, it will just smush. Like I was afraid it was going to break or crack.
Right.
So I was looking for something more durable. So I found this online, and it's fantastic. Now, I will say it's not waterproof. So that's something to keep in mind. If you put soup in here, you'll have it in your bag.
Okay.
But you can't, because it's metal, I can't even cook on it. I've done that before over an open flame. So there's a big bottom here. It stacks in there, and I can put a sandwich or something in there.
It's pretty roomy. Oh my gosh.
Yes. And then there's another piece at the top. And then this is a big piece. There's a little tiny tin that fits in here, and sometimes I'll even take that out to make more room, and I'll carry it separately. But I will tell you that when my mom, we travel a lot together. When we were in Washington, D.C., we would pack our lunch in here, shove it full of cut up fruit and breads and meats and whatever we had around the house, or the lodge that we were in, just shove it full of food, literally packed to the rim. But her and I could share a lunch together. So there was enough food in here for 2 people for a nice little lunch when you pull it all out.
Right.
Yeah. And we would just purchase a drink somewhere. You walk along somewhere and grab a cold drink. It was hot out, and put our stuff down, and there we go. And then the tin I can throw in the bag and sit on it. And it isn't going to collapse or break. I've had it now maybe, 2000, at least 5 years or more. And I've traveled with it for long periods of time. And it still looks great. So we'll put a link in there for where to find it.
Yeah, we'll put all the links into the description.
Yeah. Well, what you got? Something else?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I got, no, it's okay. I always, even if it's not going to rain or you don't think it's going to rain, I always pack a packable rain jacket, like the super thin ones, that they're like cheap. You can get even like those, if you go like the dollar store, they have the ponchos.
Yes.
Just something that folds really flat. And I always take it in my day pack, always,
Okay.
Because, it might get rainy, it might get windy, but also it's a wonderful thing. You just pull out if there's a grassy place and you want to sit down, or just to put your food on, or even like on a concrete surface, things look dirty, the park bench might not be super clean, you have something to lay your food out onto, and then you can just wash it off and
Yeah,
There
because
you
it's
go.
waterproof, right?
Right, it's waterproof and it doesn't
Yeah.
take up any room because you can squish it down. Some of them, like I think this one actually like will fold into itself into the pocket. You just got
Yes,
to keep
I have one of
stuffing,
those.
and then
Yeah.
it's got a little strap, and literally just hook it on your bag, your day pack, or even, you know, just the edge of your belt loop if need be, and you always have something.
Yeah, yeah, that's really great because when it gets, especially if you're out for the whole day, I mean, how many times have you been out and like, oh my God, I didn't know it was going to get this cold, and now you're
Yes.
freezing. So having a jacket that you can just throw in your bag is
Right.
great. You know, it may not look the most fashionable based on whatever it is you're wearing, but at least you'll be warm and dry. Like, you
Right.
know, that's
And
way
you also
more
have a
important.
little place
Yeah,
to throw your picnic down.
yeah, yeah. And I have my
You have
Matador.
a square one though. That's
Yeah, I
nice.
have a Matador mat, and I bought this a couple of years ago. I just was fascinated by the thing. It's not economical, so I'll say that it's probably like $25. So it's not like a cheap thing, but I've had it for quite a while, and it, like yours, is folds into itself. This is a little pocket that is actually attached to the whole thing. And it's meant to be kind of a portable picnic blanket. So I'm not going to unfold the whole thing because it's huge, but each of the corners has one of these in it.
Oh, like a little stake.
Like a little stake, so you could stake it down. It also, when you unfold it, there are little lines you'll see that tell you how, little red lines tell you how to fold it back up like a map, so you can get it back.
Oh, nice.
It's really thin. You know, like that jacket that you're sharing. And it has saved me from the rain. So I've pulled it out and pulled it up over my head while waiting for a bus. I've thrown it on the ground, you know, for a picnic, just like it's supposed to be used for. I've thrown it over park benches and others that don't look really clean, so I can, you know, sit down and feel comfortable. It would keep you warm because it's waterproof, so you could put it over yourself and use it as a kind of a poncho if you wanted. But I like, again, if you're just out and you know you're going to be wanting to sit outside, if you're walking in the wilderness somewhere and you think you might want to just sit on a log or a tree somewhere, this will help keep your clothes clean and so forth. So I always bring it because it's so compact. It's like, ooh, if I can really get those things in there.
Small. Right.
Yeah.
And then you had a few other things too.
I do. We were talking about dining when it's cold, and I started 2016 when I took my 9 months trip. I started carrying a small thermos. Now I used to carry, like a lot of people do, a like a thermal coffee cup.
Right. Yeah.
But those aren't real good to throw in your bag, because although they say they're waterproof, the little lip that you open, sometimes if it tips the wrong way, or if I've had that button got pushed and then you end up coffee in there. No. So this is actually meant to like dump in your bag upside down, right? So
that's a good one.
Liked that. And then also because this is a little, cup here. So I can just sit down and have a little sip of my coffee and then move along and then sit somewhere else and have a sip. So lots of times this whole pot will take me, this is probably maybe 2 full cups of coffee is about what it fills in here.
Yeah.
But it will stay hot all day long. So from morning till night. And so I can have a sip or 2 in the morning with my croissant and then hold it. And then at night I can stop and get a little dessert pastry and sit at another picnic area. And I've never had to go back, and I don't have to pay for the extra coffee. Again, budget wise for me, when I was traveling and long-term travel, paying for a $2 to $3, $4 coffee a couple of times a day, which I need, seemed expensive when I could make it either in my room or even purchase one big cup of coffee, which is way cheaper than buying multiples, and pour it in here. And I've done that before too, where I went, to a fast food place or a quick 7-Eleven, got a big coffee for nothing, right? And then poured it in here to save it for the day. So I've done that.
That's an excellent thermos. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, but I will say to test it, because I had one and it wasn't keeping my coffee warm. And so then it took about 3 tries to find one. The same size, they all look alike, but it took about 3 tries to find one that would hold the coffee warm for more than an hour or two. So you buy some of the cheaper ones, but actually the one I found here was one that was found at a thrift shop. So
Oh, it was?
yes.
That is a great tip. Yeah.
Yeah. So we just,
Look
you know,
at the thrift shops, because you can find all kinds of great things like that there.
yeah. So just popping into a thrift shop and find a little one. They have little, you know, like when I was a kid, we used to have one that you could put soup in, which is a little bit bigger. But I've not done soup with this one. I'm sure I could, because a thermos is a thermos. You just have to pour it into something. But I do like the fact that I can always have hot water or hot coffee and hot cocoa if you're not a coffee drinker, or hot water for tea. Just a nice, again, sit in a little park or a little place where there's people, pull out your thermos, grab a cookie from your bag, and you've got a treat. And that was the other thing. I bring bandanas. I will bring probably about 3 or 4 of these on a trip, and I sort of color code them in my mind. So some are for sitting on and things, and other things are for my face. So I make sure that I remember which one is which. Because you want to use one for a napkin, maybe, than one I use to lay on the table as a tablecloth. So you'll see if I share pictures of my makeshift picnics that I do a train ride, I always pull the little train tray out like they have at the airplane, and I lay out my little
that's smart
bandana, because it's always, they say it's the dirtiest thing on the plane, right?
Right, exactly.
I put that out, and then I open my little tin with my little goodies, and I make my own little picnic there.
Right, and you could actually wrap your food up in that too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because sometimes when you buy something, they just give you a little bag or something that would be a double wrapper.
I have definitely wrapped sandwiches, bread, pastries in these, just kind of folded it up, and that's, you know, good enough for the afternoon usually. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've definitely done that. And they're lightweight, and they are multi-purpose. I'll say that I have used them as towels, because I've gotten, you know, you get wet, so I reach in my bag and I grab one of them, and I can dry my face off or my hands off or whatever. So having a couple, again, I bought a big bag of them several years ago, so I have several colors, and I just grabbed 2 or 3 of different colors, and then in my head it's like, okay, the dark blue one is the one I put on the table, and the pink one is the one I use for my face, right? And I just remember that, and I wash them throughout my trip if I have a long trip, but that way I can use one as a tablecloth, or one to sit on, right, or whatever, and then one to wipe off my face or wipe off my mouth. Yeah, it really helps. That's a great thing to do. I think that's it. As far as I have tons of other things, as you can imagine, but we can talk about cooking on your trip.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Other things, but yeah, there's so much fun.
A couple extra little Ziploc bags that tuck in your bag, you know, whatever it is. There's so many things, you know. Yes,
yeah, and to think about, and just thinking about that when you're heading off, like how many days are you going to be gone, and you know, do you want to eat out at every meal? Maybe not. You know, what could you do? You know, would you want to have lunch and get a sandwich that you eat half now and half later? And, you know, bring a little something to spruce up the picnic for yourself, to make it feel good. And those are great ways to make your journey more fun. I think so much more fun is sitting outside.
Well, I think it adds so much to take time. Because you're going to take time to eat. You're going to need to eat anyways.
Yes.
But oftentimes you're spending that time more productively. You're not waiting in the line to get seated. You already can choose your spot and sit down and get your meal going in the time that you probably waited. You know, a lot of places, you know, it just takes a while, and then you're crowded inside. You're not able to enjoy what's going on outside. And oftentimes most of the locals aren't eating at a restaurant every day. They're outside enjoying their noontime outside. So
right. Okay, so we're going to talk to Mariel next and hear about her trip in Florence. Hopefully she had some good meals. We'll get to hear about Of course, Italy has got lots of that. So stay tuned. Let's just head over there and talk to Mariel next. Hi, everybody. Welcome. Today, we're talking with Mariel, who once worked at Subway and has been skydiving, but not at the same time. She wishes she was from Portugal and has been mistaken for Selena Gomez. Her nickname is Mar, and she loves chocolate ice cream. And today, she's going to share a little about her trip to Florence, Italy. So welcome, Mariel.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so much fun.
Oh, good. Yeah. So we're going to go ahead and start our famous 7-minute timer.
Okay.
So tell us why you chose Florence and what made it special for you.
So I chose Italy And with Italy, I thought of three major cities, one being Rome, another being Venice, and the third one being Florence. And with Florence, it's just such a magical city. It's beautiful. I spent 4 days there. I could have spent a week, if not two, three, a lifetime. I don't know. Florence was just a magical city. The food was incredible. The people were so nice. The streets were stunning. You go to the top of Piazza, I think it's Piazza di Michelangelo, and you see the sunset and you grab a bottle of wine and it's just, you hang out and it's just magical. I don't even know or have other words for it, but Florence is a place where if it's not on your bucket list, it should be on your bucket list.
That's amazing. I feel that way about a number of cities. So now I need to put Florence out there where you feel like you've just been transported in time, or that's amazing. Thanks for sharing that. Is there something that you think surprises people about Florence, or something that surprised you that you didn't expect when you got there?
That's a great question. So Florence, just to give everyone a heads up, they don't have Uber. So that was kind of a surprise. They have Uber Eats, but they don't actually have Uber. They have white taxis. So where I stayed, it was about a 10-minute walk from the Santa Maria train station. But we thought, oh, maybe we can get an Uber, and Uber just didn't exist. And they write it in Uber, it's actually illegal. So you have to know to make sure that you take a taxi, because otherwise you're not going to get around. You can't just quickly get in an Uber. So you kind of have to plan certain things. So that was probably the biggest surprise.
And is that only in Florence, or is that all of Italy, the Uber situation?
So it was definitely just Florence. When I was in Rome, definitely the case. In Venice, they don't have Uber because it's all canal. Right. So that's very interesting too, because I got lost on Google Maps in Venice. So I definitely would.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, definitely. But Florence, for me, was the only city I came across in Italy that I've been to so far where there's no Uber.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Well, that's good to know for all of us.
Yes.
What are some of the places that you would suggest a first timer go?
There's so many. Again, the Piazza di Michelangelo for the sunset is absolutely incredible. I would say going to the Duomo. I didn't actually get to go in. It's very crowded, but even to walk around it, it's fantastic. And I'm not really a high-end luxury store kind of gal, but I have to say going into a Gucci in Italy, it's a different level. The ambiance in there, the people were so nice. It just was an incredible place to go. So again, I'm not a big luxury type of gal, but if you're able to go into a Gucci in Italy, especially Florence, you may or may not change your mind pretty quickly. So those were amazing too. And just even the little restaurants in Florence, there's a place that I wish I remembered, but I'll have to maybe send it to you in a link, but there's a sandwich place. It's €5 for a massive sandwich. And they make it, you can do with chicken, you can do, I think, turkey. My girlfriend and I who went, we did it with eggplant and mozzarella. And it was a massive, massive sandwich that you split. And it was the cheapest thing I ate, but one of the best things I ate. And I'll have to find the name of it because it's, I'm not thinking of it at the moment, but it was incredible.
Yeah, we'll need the name so we can put it in the show notes, Mariel, because people are going to now need to know.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
For sure. And, you're talking about eats places. Are there other local spots that no one else knows about, or something that you just discovered along the way? Anything else you can think of?
So I can't think of the names, but I actually did a food tour in Florence. That was probably the best food tour I've ever done. And this guy's name is Matteo. It's under Airbnb Experiences, which I can also send a link. Okay. And what he does, it's essentially, he writes it's a 4-hour tour, but it's kind of as long as you want a little bit. But he takes you around where he starts at a local market and you go inside and try different cheeses. Then you go and you try Napoleon type pizza or Naples pizza with wine. Then you go and try different olive oils. You have another sandwich with more wine. Then you go and you end up in a wine cellar and you see these beautiful, beautiful old bottles of wine. And you're in just this basement. And then you try more wine and more cheese and more bread. And by the way, beginning and end of the tour, you have an espresso. And at the end, you have gelato. So it was a ton of food. Definitely recommend leggings and comfortable shoes. But he took you to some really hidden places. Like a sandwich place was just a street cart that you wouldn't think of. Or even the pizza place was a small on the corner spot. So the places we went to were just fantastic. And you end up drunk and happy at the end. Yeah. So I don't know how you can go wrong.
Yeah, that sounds fabulous. Oh my gosh. So tell us a little bit then about where you chose to stay.
I actually stayed in an Airbnb. So I know it's controversial. Some people like Airbnb. My husband's not crazy about Airbnb. For me, I find for more budget-friendly travel and also local experience, I love an Airbnb. The one I happened to stay in was a superhost. Honestly, my friend and I were like, can we buy this place? Like, it's just beautiful. And where we were was kind of in the center of town. So it was about a 10-minute walk to Santa Maria train station, but we also could walk in town, which was really great. So location-wise, it was fantastic. And you just felt like the ambiance of being in Florence. Like when you stay in an actual local place, as long as you feel safe, right? And you have a good communication with the host, I loved it. I felt like I was a local and I was Italian and I can walk around. You just felt you were part of it. You know, of course, it's not a concierge, right? There's no elevator. But honestly, I don't mind that. I thought it was such a great place and it was cute. You know, the bathroom was great. The bed was comfortable. The place was very clean. I felt extremely safe. So it was fantastic.
Yeah, we like Airbnbs too. We talk about that too. And in some way to work to make you feel like you're a local. So I like that you brought that up because that's a big part of it. And also the Airbnb experiences. There's lots of different ways, and that's one of them, to find a local to walk you around. And that, right? There's a big benefit there.
I love it. And that's how I found him, and his reviews were fantastic. And I even wrote a nice review too, because I know what it's like to give back in that sense. And a lot of tour guides really, really, really heavily rely on reviews. Right. So if anyone can write one, I just think that's so powerful, and it helps them grow, you know, on TripAdvisor or Airbnb to be one of the first slots on one of those websites.
Right. Absolutely. So what would you tell somebody else who wants to go to Florence? What are some of your top tips for getting there, or when to go? Do you have any tips on going to Florence?
I would say Florence, go April, May, or September, October. When you go in the summer, you have to think about all the student groups and tour groups. And so that can get really crowded. Plus it's really hot and sticky. So depending on how you feel about temperature check, I don't know if I would go then. And it's more expensive too. So when I went in April, I think I went early May when I went, and it was a perfect time. I was comfortable. I could wear a leather jacket and jeans and comfortable shoes, and I didn't feel too hot. I didn't feel too cold. I felt right. Yeah. So I definitely think that's a great thing. I also took a train from Rome to Florence. Oh, is that it?
Yep, that's it.
Is that the timer? I was like, oh no.
No, that's okay.
We were hearing so many amazing, wonderful things. I was like, that's exactly what Cindy and I love. Local experiences, finding little places to eat, doing it on a budget. We just feel like that way you really experience a place in a real, you know, real way is, I guess, the best way to put it.
Yeah, I love that too. I think it's so great.
Unfortunately, everyone, that's our 7 minutes. So thank you, Mariel, for sharing all the fabulous tips. Click the link below. We have Mariel's contact information. We have some of the places she mentioned and the Airbnb experiences, and travel with us through real stories from real people. Thanks.
Thanks, Mariel.
Thank you so much, Cindy and April. This was so much fun.
Hey, it's time to say goodbye. Hope you enjoyed our episode today. We really enjoyed meeting Mariel and hearing about Florence, sharing some alfresco dining tips with you, whether that's while you're traveling or out of country, out of state, or even just in your neighborhood. There's a great little park down the street from me. I may go take a sit there later today. And if you like this episode, please give us a like and subscribe below. And catch Cindy and I over on our podcast, where we'll be talking about peer-to-peer lodging and so many more great things this year, top 10 lists and other content to come. So hope you enjoyed this. Travel with us through real stories from real people. Take care, everyone. Catch you later.